Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us here in the Goalkeepers podcast. So, today we have Coach Niko. Um, Niko, please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, what you're doing. Fill us in with where you are right now.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, and in the U.S. I just moved back from Italy. I was there the last year or so, playing, coaching a bit, and also doing my master's degree at the Soccer Management Institute.
So, tell me a little bit about that. So, what's the master's degree that you were taking?
So the Soccer Management Institute also works with the Olympic Management Institute, and my end specifically was in sports management and soccer coaching specifically, with a great staff there. The professors that work with the federation in Italy, and also the Italian methodology professor. He's the director of academics there. He's also the head coach of Sampdoria women's team right now, with Antonio Cincotta. He's a great mind in soccer. It's very nice to work with him and learn from him.
All right. So before we go too much further, because that
Yeah.
we can get wrapped up really easily, tell us about how you began. Tell us a little bit about where you're from. How did you start playing? How did you become a goalkeeper? How
Mm.
did that process start?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in Baltimore, in Maryland. I love the game. We always played in the neighborhood. And when I was probably about like 6, 7 years old, I kept bugging my mom to sign me up for a team to play and stuff like that. So she finally did. And then there was a point where like no one really wanted to go on goal. And honestly, I was a bigger kid, so they were like, "Okay, you go try it." And then I ended up being kind of pretty good, and they kept me there. So that's like the only position I've ever played throughout my youth to college to semi-pro. So
So how has that transition now? Because you're still playing, right?
yeah,
So how has that transition started for you from the going for you're still playing, but you're already trying to transition into coaching. Not trying, you're already transitioning into coaching. So
yeah.
how has that been for you? How has that worked out for you?
So I mean, it's worked out really nicely. I started coaching when I was about probably like 16, doing camps and stuff, and then I came to this club, Copper Mine. We helped build the club. I was 18 when I joined, so we helped build the club from 3 teams now to over 70 teams, and semi-professional, professional women's team in the UWS. So I mean, from there, so I'm 25 now. It's been about 7 years that I've been like coaching and playing simultaneously, and it's been really great because from the coaching brain to the player's brain, I can see things in both aspects. So when a coach tells me and gives me directions in a training session or in a match, I can understand it from a player's perspective, but also comprehend it as a coach. So when that takes me into coaching my teams, I coach youth teams in Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and then I was also the women's club coach at Pitt. And now I'm on the Coppermine United staff as the women's assistant and goalkeeper coach. So everything I learned as a player and those different aspects, those different ideas, helped me transition as a coach and vice versa. Because you can always see the game in every aspect, and especially as a goalkeeper, you have to see the full field. You have to see all the details, all the aspects, all the variables, and try to comprehend them and put them together to make sense and help lead your team.
So I would say like for like that is just that's a great advice. And I have like I've been doing this for a little bit now and I have not heard that before, right? So like you started coaching at 16.
Yeah, like summer camps and stuff. I mean, it's like little, but I mean, it gives you a perspective because you learn how to, especially with kids, you have to know how to talk to them. You have to know the difference between being authoritative, but also being nice because the camps are supposed to be fun. So, I mean, little by little, you pick up, then you have to think of creative drills, creative games. And then when you get into coaching higher levels, especially like youth and like senior levels, like you have to keep the players engaged. But at the same time, you also have to make it serious. So it has to be a nice mix. You have to understand your players, understand the person and the group, the unit you're working with. Not only like as like from the whole team, but like also like the other coaching staff because I have to work with other assistants. I have to work with the head coach, whether it be on set pieces or down to like how much time I have with the goalkeepers in a training session, whether it's 20 minutes or 40.
Yeah, that to me is fantastic advice to any player. And obviously, I know, especially with the culture here, right, in the US, of, kids, especially 15, 16, 17. Now you're getting into that recruiting phase and you're looking into colleges. So you're always training, you're always playing. But in that time that you have off and some of those breaks that you have, figure out a way to get involved with your club and figure out a way to get involved with even with other maybe organizations that can give you
Hmm.
that opportunity to coach and train. And obviously, we're not saying go coach, go coach a club team or go coach a travel team. We're saying go coach a summer camp where you can go help push cones around, where you can help clean up, where you can help whatever. But at the same time, your understanding of soccer is going to increase based on the environment that you're putting yourself in. So that's great, Nico. Thank you for that. Now, tell me about your transition from Baltimore to overseas, and how did you end up overseas?
Yeah, so I was recruited by the Soccer Management Institute. They reached out to me, and we spoke on Skype once or twice, and then I went and met them in Chicago a few years ago for the during the convention. And we talked. I mean, by that time, I was already coaching for a few years, and I had a decent grasp on, like, technical, tactical stuff, but also like methodology and like different perspectives. And we had a nice conversation. And then from there, I formally applied. I was accepted, and then I flew over, and that was a really good experience because I did play in Italy a few years ago. We went on like a tour for 2 weeks, and went into Rome, drove up through Milan, and we just played a few under 23 teams there, and it was a great experience. Obviously, like going over during the COVID period, it was a bit of an adjustment because, like, no matter where you go, everything changes. So, I mean, for me, it was not only like, adjusting to a new culture, a new style of play, having to learn a new language, but also now I have to learn the laws because within the first month and a half we were there, everything was normal. By mid October through like April, it got very strict with curfew hours, whether you could be inside of a place to eat or you have to take it away. If we can even have contact in training or non-contact. For a few months, we weren't even able to have contact. And then we entered a national tournament, and we started training normally again. And from there was a great progression with the coaching staff. So for me, when you go into a situation like that, or even just going into a new team, you have to go in with an open mind, and you have to understand because you could be playing with, like, a bunch of guys that are from your neighborhood or guys from around the world. And you have to be open minded because you don't know their experiences, you don't know their mindset, you don't know how they play. You have to understand each other, learn the way to play with each other because you can have an A and B style of playing. I can play A and the other person can play B. But now we both have to learn the C style of playing. That way, that's what the staff wants. That's what the team wants for our goal and our objective for that season. So it's being very open minded, but also doing your job, doing what's asked of you.
So let me ask you this, because sometimes you don't even have to go overseas. You can go from like New York to LA, Texas to
Yeah.
Minnesota, Florida to Oregon. So for those players that are like looking to make that jump to maybe play, you're playing college and now you got to go out of state. What helped you um, be successful in adapting to a new place? What was a characteristic, something that you already maybe had? I know you mentioned being open
Yeah.
minded. Um, so, what was those things that allowed you to be successful and embrace those changes and like kind of hit the floor running and be like, okay, well, I got to compete, like that, let's
Mhm.
go.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm Greek American, and I grew up with English and Brazilian coaches. So for me, on the pitch, I'm very used to like an international type of flow. So I played JUCO, which is junior college in the Baltimore area, before I moved to Point Park University in Pittsburgh. At Point Park, it was internationals. You had English, you had Dutch, you had Saudis, Brazilian, German, you name it. There was just about somebody from every continent there. So, I mean, for me, it was going into a comfort zone where I'm working with other international players, but also at the same time, like everyone's got a different style, and now we have to come together and figure it out. So from there, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because some things, a part of your game, the way you play, the way you like to play, may be a part of that team and that unity of what you want to accomplish that season. But there are other aspects that won't be like how you like to play, and you'll have to learn, and you have to learn on the fly. You have to learn quickly of how to adjust, how to fix your brain to accommodate for that situation.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is maybe that early exposure to different coaches, different methodologies, different players,
Exactly.
different environments that allow you to not be so rigid in your mentality, right? To allow you to have that mental flexibility to be able to adapt and maybe adjust and um, again hit the floor running and have that flow in whatever environment you're in. So so what made you join the United Goalkeeping Alliance? What made you join us? What said to you? All right, this is something that I need to do.
Yeah, I mean, with this organization, I think it's really good because the need for goalkeeper coaches is there's a great need for goalkeeper coaches, but not only that, because there's a need for goalkeeper coaches, there's a need for goalkeeper education. So to properly, like, it's not just, show up to a training and, like, go through the motions and do a few drills. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's very important. But also, like, the in classroom, once you understand the different aspects of the game, it's very important for a player, for his growth and development, his or her growth and development. So for me, that's what this is about. Is it's about helping to give back a little bit, but also helping the next generation of players and coaches, like educating them, and also collaboration with other coaches is very important as well. Because I can speak with coaches in England, I can speak with coaches all across the U.S., and they're all at different clubs, different teams, and they have their own way of doing things. If I become, like, if I network and, we get to know each other, we have like a Zoom meeting just to chat and, talk about goalkeeping. That's fantastic, because there are different techniques and different styles of goalkeeping that you don't know. So it's great to learn. It's always great to learn.
No, I totally agree. And I think what I'm enjoying the most about this is the fact that a lot of coaches that maybe aren't even presenting show up, right? Show up and learn as well and start to also interact with the other coaches. And it just becomes this like a pool of knowledge, and you're just constantly learning again, it may not be better, it may not be, it's definitely not worse, but it's different. And there's those differences that now you can, like, okay, I can tweak this, I can make that better. And again, to your point, right, um, that networking piece as well, super important. So talk to me about your presentation this month. What are you presenting on, and what are your thoughts on your topic?
Yeah, so this Sunday evening, we're presenting on different skill sets and kind of examining a player on the pitch, and understanding. It's for me, it's more about understanding the individual, because goalkeeping, yeah, it's a part of the team, it's a part of the unit, but at the same time, you have your own goalkeeping team. There's only one goalkeeper on the field at a time, compared to, like, 3, 4 defenders, midfielders, whatever the other position is. So it's a very unique position. So there's a lot that goes into it. From my perspective, in a goalkeeper DNA, there are 5 main pillars of it's tactical, technical, physical, social, and also psychological factors that go into analyzing a person. Because every goalkeeper is different. You can have a goalkeeper like me who's 5'11", on the short end of the requirement, we'll call it. But you have other guys that, can be 6'3", 6'6", whatever, and their game is a bit different than mine. Because when it comes to, like, aerial balls, they got an advantage, because they got a extra reach on me. But also, where that individual comes from, the style they play, who they've trained with, or have played with, because that goes in everything, because the individual at that moment is a product of the years past, of all the training, all the visuals, all the gameplay. That is the end product for the time being. And then an hour later, after that session is done, after the match is done, then they become a whole new individual because they intake more information. Goalkeeping is all about intaking information, processing it, and then helping yourself become a better person, but also a better player. So, as a coach, when going to recruit or analyzing a player for development in a micro, meso, macro cycle, anything like that, it's analyzing those different aspects, going from a training to a match, analyzing the match, analyzing the performance, see how that curve of how did this week's training sessions transition to the match. Were my objectives accomplished? If not, how can we analyze? How can I explain to this individual? Because some players can be more open-minded than others, and also I may have to speak with another player differently than this one over here. For me, when it comes to the player, I have to know them from a professional perspective, but also somewhat of a personal one, because I need to understand if I need to be a little more light with them, or some players they like to get feedback a little bit more critical, a little bit harder. I gotta be. It's more of a tough love type situation. So it's understanding the player and understanding how to feed that back, and can we bring it full circle into the next week of training. Now, okay, now we did 3 of the 4 things that we wanted to do last week. How can we work on that 1/4 that we did not do, and how can we continue to progress for the next week?
Now, so you mentioned, like, for example, as a coach, we have to be able to adapt to different personalities, different players, different people. And you're right. There are going to be players that you need to, encourage and be positive and just keep pushing that positivity all the time. Where other ones are going to ask you to be a little bit more demanding, or become more critical with the feedback. But now, as a player, how important is it to identify who we are? Like, for example, I know for myself, I know that if I want to get stuff done, and again, I'm speaking as an adult, not as a child. So it's very different. But as an adult, I now know that, hey, listen, these times work for me. This is when I'm most productive. This is when I can get the gym in. This is when I can start writing down my sessions. And now there's a kind of like a pattern for me. And I start to know who I am. How does a player identify those patterns for themselves, right? To know, this is the best time when I'm this is the best time when I can do that, right? Obviously outside of school stuff, but on the field, how does that player start to identify themselves?
I mean, the best way to do that, and I've actually learned this just recently, and I've started doing it, and it's had a very good impact on me. Before a practice, before a match, just list your objectives, we'll call them. And it can be like, 3, 4 things, something very simple. Communicate with my team, uh, control the ball, play simple, controllables. So, I mean, with that aspect, it's something you can control, those variables that you can control, compared to if like you can't say not get a goal scored on you, because that's out of your control. It's a team sport. If something happens and it's just like you're outnumbered, like a 4-2 situation, it's very difficult to accommodate for that. But list your objectives and always have a positive mindset, or a neutral mindset, not a negative one. So go through that list after the half, after the practice, in between exercises, and just think: did I control the ball? Did I talk to my team? Did I communicate well? Did I play simple? And if you do that, you put a nice green check mark and you're happy. If you didn't do that, do not have a negative connotation, because that affects your psychological aspect of the game and your self confidence a bit. You can put it as, we'll call it, the delta variant, and that's just something, it's not good, it's not bad, but it can be improved. So that is just, again, keeping an open mind and understanding. Okay, don't get too mad, don't get too flustered. For me, I used to be very angry if something went wrong. When that doesn't help you, it only decreases your performance because it gets into the brain of the player. You lose your self confidence, you lose your head a bit, you start panicking. You have to be calm, you have to direct your team and lead your team. So in this position, you have to have a very quick overview and a quick turn of your mind. If you get a goal scored on you, take 6 seconds, 2 seconds breath in, 4 seconds out, and then it's on to the next ball. Because that goal, it may be a goal, but you could also the game could be 3-1 and you're winning. And if you focus on that one negative of being like now they scored one, but you're still winning, that can change the game if you have the negative aspect of that, because then that affects your performance. Then can become 3-2, 3-3, or even 4-3, and then you lose a game. It's very important to keep your mindset positive, and it's also very important to speak with your coach and have a good conversation, not demanding, but ask good questions and see if there's anything you can improve on as an individual, or what you can do to help the people around you become better. Because you can have an impact on the game just by communication. You don't even have to touch the ball. As a goalkeeper, you see the whole field. You see all other 20, 21 players on the pitch. You can help direct the ball. If my right back has someone to his right behind them to the left, then I can say, hey, blah, 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 21's to on your left shoulder. And then he knows. Then he can mark his man, and he knows he's there. And that's a game changer. Instead of them receiving the ball and now going to goal, now my right back knows he's there and he can defend properly. I think that's a huge part of the game.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that question, how do we change that mindset, right? Like for example, how do we change that? How do we change those goals? How do we change the goal from, um, well, I'm gonna have a shutout today
Hmm.
to, I'm gonna make three really good saves, right? Or I'm
Yeah.
gonna make really good saves. How do you change that mindset?
I personally, I wouldn't even complicate it that much. I would focus on baby steps, the little aspects to lead to those things, because the things you just said, I'm going to make three saves. That's a result. That's an expectation that you're going to have at least three shots on goal. If you don't even get three shots on goal, then you'll never meet that
Yeah.
requirement, that expectation. So for me, it's the smaller aspects, the micro parts of your game where you can, like I said, the controllables, things you can control. You can control, okay, I'm going to say two positive things of what I did well, and then one thing I can improve. And then that's where the snowball effect comes in, and it gets better and better and better. So focus on the little things, because they may not seem like much. Just like in life, like everything in the day to day can seem the same, but when you look back, a lot has changed. And it's because of the little things that every day build up, build up, build up. You look back, and 3 months later, 6 months later, your game's changed completely, because you always focus on the little things what you need to work on that day, that week, to lead to the next game, the next tournament. And that's very important. I think that's very overlooked. So it's just keeping it very simple, and just like I said, be very positive with yourself, because the game of soccer, and especially goalkeeping, it's a big mental aspect, because you it's very seldomly that you're always the hero, because sometimes you can be seen as a villain because you let one goal too many go by you, which is it's a difficult part of the match. But I mean, that's also the beauty of it, because it's very unexpected. It's very exciting. It's difficult, but it's worth it.
No, I totally agree, and I'm always in awe of you guys and you coaches, right? Again, I get to do this. I'm very lucky, and then I talk to you guys, and then I'm always like my jaw's like on the floor. I'm like, Jesus, these guys have ridiculous depth of knowledge. So I know the United Goalkeeping Alliance is lucky to have you, and obviously we're going to look forward to your presentation here in a couple of weeks. So Niko, very very much appreciative of your time. If we want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me through my social media. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Roro the Greek, Roro the Greek. Send me a message if I can help you in any way. Let me know, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. And again, right, we could talk on like a lot of more topics. I want to obviously be respectful of your time,
Yeah,
but again, we do have you presenting this month, so we're looking forward to that. So please check out the educational series, and we hope to see you guys there.
I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure. Hope to be back on soon. And like I said, guys, keep your head up. If you need anything, let me know. And best of luck to you.
Thank you, Nico. Much appreciated.